Hello Internet, welcome to the Collective Arcana, a channel all about tabletop gaming. So today we're going to talk about how to homebrew your own item for your game. So even if you're not doing a whole homebrew, game, maybe you want to dabble and see if you like it. And I thought this would be a good way to start that. I'm still learning how to DM in general, but I kind of was wondering about how that works. So I started to ask Wyatt, and then I was like, well, let's ask on camera so that everyone can learn with me, which was kind of the point of the how to DM videos that we're making. Okay, so where do I start? I want to make a new item all just for my game. How do I even almost begin this?
First place you want to start is with a concept. You want to know what sort of item you need or want to bring in. As a hobby, you could certainly just start making things at random just to make them, but most of the time your first homebrew item, your first homebrew anything is going to be necessity. It's going to be you needed it to convey an idea or to reward a specific situation or something along those lines. So the first thing you want to do is find out what you need. One thing that I want to do when we're going over here is just to provide some structure to it is I'm just going to talk about a standard magic item. Then I'm going to talk about a magic item that is sort of standard in my homebrew world. And then we're going to sort of build a magic item.
Okay.
Okay? All right. So most game systems, whether you're talking Pathfinder or D&D, you're going to have something at least similar to goggles of dark vision.
Okay.
Okay, you can see them on Critical Role. They are a staple. Dark vision is very important when doing stealthy missions, and so characters that don't have it will almost invariably decide they want it.
Dungeons, turns out, are usually dark.
Yeah, and if they're not, then somebody's probably already there, and you should be careful.
Like a dragon. Get it? Dungeons and Dragons.
So goggles of dark vision are a pretty basic magic item. In most editions, a player could make that item with very minimal effort compared to some of the wilder stuff. And it's, like I said, very common. So that's why I think it's a good place to start. All they do is you put them down over your eyes and you can see in the dark if you couldn't before. Some versions will allow you to see twice as far if you already had dark vision, which is certainly handy. But very rarely is somebody going to drop a few thousand gold to get something to extend their vision a little bit.
Yeah.
So that's a pretty basic item. Depending on your edition will determine its actual cost and what its plus and minus is. And we don't want to get into the specifics of your game system. Do be aware that for 5th edition, magic items as a rule are just a lot rarer and typically harder to put a number on for a lot of things. And if you're building a magic item in D&D 5th edition or even Pathfinder 2nd edition, because they really toned down magic power there, try to aim a little bit lower than you might otherwise. Like if you're playing, for example, Pathfinder 1st edition, which can get just wild with what its magic items do. The newer games are really trying to tone that down a little bit. So keep that in mind when you're building. So my particular homebrew world has an organization called the Inquisitors. You've met a couple of them.
Yes, I have.
And the Inquisitors, you haven't really found this out in game yet, but they are an elite sort of agency, almost sort of like Interpol meets like CIA, sort of just an intelligence agency that also investigates crimes as well.
It's like the Men of Letters.
Sort of, yeah.
Supernatural.
Except they don't tend to handle the supernatural. They tend to handle more human threats. Whereas your magicians and your paladins would handle the more supernatural, crazier stuff. These are more to make sure that no country is infiltrating your country and things like that. So one of the things that they have they actually have a couple of sort of default magic items. They have a glamour cloak that they can use to disguise themselves. Very handy for them if they're trying to infiltrate. The other thing they have is a nice set of shades. And these sunglasses that they carry, they're little, I typically depict them as round, very classic, almost like John Lennon-esque sunglasses. And they are, by default, they give the option for dark vision. And they give the option for, and the dark vision is a consistent effect. A limited amount of time per day, they can detect magic, they can detect evil, they can see invisibility.
I want some.
And they can give the wearer true sight.
I'm so tempted to attack one of these people now.
Oh, I don't recommend it.
They're so nice, so I wouldn't.
They are a very well-oiled organization, and they don't take too kindly to having their items stolen.
I would never.
They are pirates. So I mean, these are, of course, very handy. I mean, it's a wonderful suite of, it's pretty much everything you could ask for from your vision. And, they're issued those once they reach a certain rank to make their jobs easier as investigators and problem solvers and spies and various things like that. So for me, I wanted, to have a pretty unique item for an organization in my world, and I also wanted to just give some characters an excuse to wear cool shades. So I just sort of thought about the types of effects that would be useful to an investigator, spy type character, and I thought about the best ways to implement that without it being just, because you don't want to just be constant effect everything. That's extremely powerful. They're already very powerful, but it's extremely powerful, and truthfully, it's just unnecessary. So what I did was, and these were built for Pathfinder First Edition is what I built them in. So they're a little higher on the scale than they might be if you were building them in 5e or Pathfinder Second Edition. It's consistent dark vision, no time limit on that, no number of uses or anything. The detect magic and detect evil are each for an hour a day. And I think that I've typically said you can break that up in 10-minute intervals. So, I mean, functionally, you're going to be fine all day with those. And then there is the see invisibility and the true sight, and those were both limited to 1 minute per day, and you could not break those up. That was, I'm seeing invisibility for this minute. Yeah. Which hopefully is enough. Hopefully you're not chasing, dozens of invisible people, but you never know. So if you were building this in another edition, you definitely might want to tone down some of those uses per day. You might even have categories, especially if you had a character, one of your player characters that was going to join this organization, which I did have a player play an initiate, and he did not start off with the full version. He started with, and as he graduated the ranks, almost like a badge of honor, his glasses would improve. So that's cool. Yeah, it was pretty fun mechanic, and a great way, again, to reward your players by giving them something that's not just in the book.
Did you use a different item as the template, or is that what you were saying, the dark vision goggles?
Yeah, I mean, it all started with, I knew that goggles of dark vision were a thing. I also knew
those are in the book.
Yeah, those are in the book. As far as I know, those have been in pretty much everything since at least 3rd edition.
So you can kind of like start on that with that and build up.
Yeah, and that's really, that's good advice anytime you're homebrewing anything, is to find something that's pretty close and then find the smallest ways you can change that to get the effect that you want, especially early on. Eventually you'll be able to sort of do things, as you want, like just sort of a la carte without really having to compare it to something once you get an idea of what the power scaling is. But that's going to take a lot of trial and error, and anytime you're homebrewing, as a rule, you should let your players know, hey, I'm trying this out. If this doesn't work, we may have to make adjustments. If people aren't cool with that, then you probably shouldn't homebrew with them. If they want to. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's like anything. You want to set that up in session 0.
Some people like to stick to the strictly to the book or whatever. But I mean, that's between you and your party, really. Yeah, I mean, for me personally, I feel like, why would you? You have so many fun tools and ways to play and ways to break them. But I absolutely have played with people that like it that way. And I mean, sometimes it is nice to just have reliable consistency that you can count on, and then just see where those limitations take you creatively can be a lot of fun too. Yeah, but our game is so silly. We have some of the silliest things going on, and they're all homebrewed, and it's so fun though because of that. I don't know which of our items. Is the umbrella? The umbrella, yeah. I mean, what happened with, one of the players
or the party just recently found a Mary Poppins umbrella. You can hold it and you can move in any direction, up, down, left, right, whatever. And then I think the Paladin has it.
Yes.
And what happened was I was flipping through my Pathfinder 2nd edition books. I was just, I like to flip through it now that I've got it and waiting to actually be able to run a game in it.
Yeah.
And I just happened to, see the Broom of Flight, the flying broom in there. And so I, of course, was like, oh man, because I had a flying broom once on a wizard of mine. It was a blast. I was like, I got to give somebody a silly flying item. But I didn't want to just do another magic broom. I was like, what else could fly? Umbrella.
It's gonna be so fun.
I'm a fan. I've been waiting a couple weeks to drop that one.
Those are my favorite. The really super silly ones. Mm-hmm. You know what we could do? Maybe we'll put the items that we were talking about on a blog in case you want to just use it. Yeah, and I'll try to tweak things for you for a few different editions. First edition or Pathfinder First Edition, which you could use in 3.5 if you're playing that. 5th edition and Pathfinder 2nd edition. I don't know that I would. I definitely don't have anywhere near the system mastery it would take to balance something for 4th edition. But if you like 4th edition, you should just go play Pathfinder 2nd edition. So there's enough similarities there that it's probably going to scratch your itch. But yeah, because when we get something like that, we'll get a card. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. So we can we'll put those on the blog if you want to use them in your game.
Yeah, and listen, she said on the card, you don't have to be fancy, just an index card. Mm-hmm. Players are happy with that.
Or just print we'll put it. We'll make a printable.
Yeah, we'll make a printable. That'd be nice. That'd be nice. So that's part 1 and 2. Part 3 is you've got to make a magic item.
Oh.
Yeah. So, what kind of magic item would you want to? Now, of course, you haven't started your campaign or anything, so you don't really know what you're going to want. So let's just try to think of something that you don't think is standard, but would be pretty cool for maybe a lower level character.
I want something funny because I'm going to be really nervous, and I think it would relieve the tension, but I would also like it to be functional. Mm-hmm. So let's see. I'm probably going to have. So the starter kit comes with pre-made character sheets. Mm-hmm.
And this is the 5th edition starter set. It's wonderful if you're starting out. Yeah,
so that's the one I'm going to be running from. I'm not sure exactly how many people are going to be playing yet. I do know for sure Anthony's going to play a wizard.
Is wizard one of the options, or is he going to build a custom?
No, nope.
I recommend everybody. Yeah, I recommend everybody.
And there's a wizard. There's fighters, 2 different fighters.
I'll be whatever the last one is. Whatever the last one
I'm sure there's a cleric that no one will play.
I'll be the cleric. I love a cleric.
So, what would you say would be lacking? Let's say we only have 3 players here. And we know for sure we're going to have a wizard. And if you're going to take up the cleric,
if nobody wants to run the cleric,
the other person will likely be a fighter.
Or a rogue. Fighter or a rogue. So we might need some sort of physical ranged option. Mm-hmm. Clerics can crossbow and will be low enough level that'll probably be pretty worthwhile. So that might not. If we don't have a rogue, we're probably going to need some sort of tricky item, some kind of handy item that any idiot like a cleric could use.
Let's go with that.
Okay, something tricky. Okay. So, and I'm not sure how much I know that you had it out. I don't know how far you've gotten reading through the adventure path. Not very far.
Honestly, I've only looked through the character sheets so far. I've been painting the Critical Role miniatures.
She's been very busy. You should check out those videos if you haven't. They're super great. She's doing a great job with them. And
Thank you.
You're welcome. And I think you might even be able to see a few of them on the shelf behind us. No, maybe not. But yeah. But you should check those out. But yes, I haven't done. I don't want any spoilers on it, so I'm not touching it. I'm not getting near it.
No, I flipped through it a little bit.
But we can assume there's going to be a dungeon. We can assume that if we don't have a rogue, we might need some way to open doors.
Mm-hmm. I have a feeling we're not going to have a rogue.
Yeah, we might not. Well, if nobody's playing a rogue, I'm probably going to play a rogue.
Then we won't have a cleric.
Let's assume I'll be a cleric, because of the 2, the one's more vital.
I'm only saying that because Amanda started as a rogue, so I don't think she'll want to play a rogue again.
Yeah.
So she'll probably play a fighter.
It's more up her alley, but she might want to play a cleric, try out magic. She doesn't seem the healing type.
I don't know how many people are going to play, but I kind of want to keep it to 3 because I don't know if I can.
Well,
It's hard. How many? We have big parties, so I don't know.
We only have 5. Five's not too bad. 6 is where it starts to be considered a big party. 3 to 5 is like.
But it's also online, so it's a little harder to.
It does slow things down a bit, yeah. But yeah, so.
Something that any of them could use.
Okay, so something magical. You want it to be something that. In some editions, you might have a magic item require some sort of like spell check or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
I would recommend you don't do that, especially for certain types of items. If it's an item that you want to be difficult to use, like you purposefully want it to be difficult to use, by all means, require that use magic device or spellcraft check or whatever's appropriate for your system. But for the most part, I tend to think that, especially for little weird utility items, it's a lot more fun if they can be counted on to work. Now, that's going to vary by everybody's game, of course, especially in this case where the whole point of giving the item is to make up for the potential of a missing character to fill a role. You probably want anybody to just be able to say a command word and use it. The type of magic item that might be like a sun rod, where they can be, in some editions, they're so ubiquitous, they're mass produced, anybody can just, tap them or say whatever command word and you have a magical light.
And I should mention that we have 2 games. In one of our games, there are only 3 players. And you are much more generous with these kinds of items because we need so much help.
There's no rogue.
Neither.
My kingdom for a rogue.
Neither game has a rogue.
Well, Amanda's got some roguing.
But she is
at least one of you can stealth.
I can.
Yeah, that's true. You can. Yeah. The other game, nobody's very.
But in the live game that we only have 3 people. When I say live game, I mean the one in person. I'm a witch, so I'm mostly just.
Hex,
so we've really only got 2 people fighting. So we've been very kind and generous with the loot in that game.
Yeah, well, I mean, especially because you guys have smaller party, so you want to. I as a DM, I want to be able to throw some of the tougher, iconic things at you, and it becomes very hard to do with a smaller party. Everything's either going to be a few levels behind when you might normally be seeing it, or it's going to have to be toned down a little bit. But by giving you some extra items and a little extra oomph, it just allows me to send different things at you with more confidence in your survivability. And you guys are a very tough group.
Yeah, he did give us some of those sun rods, and they saved our butts.
Oh yeah, the vampire.
We had a vampire. Evil count, that's a whole thing. What was the other thing? A wizard.
A wizard who was in the process of becoming a lich. We're not quite there yet.
We killed him like 3 times. He kept coming back.
He's a little itchy.
And then we had a whole courtyard full of freaking guards after us. But we somehow, 3 of us, did not die.
It was very good tactical playing.
Most of that was because of the sun rod that you dropped us.
Well, that helped with the vampire, who would have been a big problem.
Yeah. So that's an example of why you might want to consider doing something like this.
Yeah. As a general rule, again, for me, if I'm going to drop an item because I feel like the party's going to need it, I want them to be able to rely on that item. Sometimes it's fun to fail forward in the game, absolutely. But especially if you see that they've got a weakness, you want them to be able to rely on the solution you found for that weakness.
Yeah.
Is at least the way I play. Now, we can play meat grindery games. I really do want to run one soon, just to do it where it's just, maybe you make it out of this room, maybe you don't. You have 7 characters ready. But most people don't run those meat grinder games, or if they do, everybody's aware of it, in which case, somebody should have rolled a rogue is sort of the attitude there. But if you're trying to give them a tool, you want to make sure the tool's going to work.
Yeah, so how do you make sure you're balancing it correctly?
Well, so again, that's going to depend a lot on your system that you're playing. Some systems are very unique. Like the Fate system, a magic item in that system, in addition to requiring like some investment to activate, even though it's an item, it would cost you like an exhaustion or a mental point type thing. You also, I'm thinking specifically, it's been a while since I read it, so don't quote me, Fate people, but the Harry Dresden RPG. You could get... Yeah, it's built on the Fate core. It's very similar to our Spooks game we play. Yeah, it's Fate in general is a really cool game. It's very cinematic. It's very, you as the player have some DM powers that you can use, which is like really cool. You can be like, no, I think I actually know this guy from college. You can just say that. and you spend one of your Fate points and the DM says, yeah, you do know this guy from college.
That's fun.
It is. It's really cool. You can be like, no, I think the room's on fire.
It's right.
It's super fun. So
we'll get back on. Sorry about that.
So you want to determine if it's strong. There might be an investment. Maybe there will be. I mean, it's not crazy to say that maybe it physically hurts a character to use something. If it's a powerful enough effect, or you want there to be a real, risk reward sort of thing with it.
Could you put like a silly curse on it? I guess you can do anything you want.
Absolutely.
Like every time they use it, they get. Like I'm learning. Like every time they use it, they get the hiccups or something, so they can't stealth anymore. Yeah,
I mean that's a great little fun.
Look, that's part of the object I'm making.
Okay, gives you the hiccups.
So then you can't stealth. So it essentially would be like a plus something.
I mean that could have all sorts of situational. All sorts of situations. I mean, you could have disadvantage
like a homebrewed something.
Because you'll be playing 5th edition, so it would probably give you disadvantage on stealth. It might also give you disadvantage on social checks, given that you're just hiccuping the whole time you're trying to convince the guard to let you in. He's going to think it, at the very least.
Might prove your innocence, though.
The hiccups?
No, not your innocence, but like you would seem innocent.
I mean, it might cause a guard to.
That guy's just drunk.
Yeah, we're looking for a murderer, and this guy can't stop hiccuping. This isn't our guy. We're looking for somebody cold-blooded.
Advantage on bluff.
Yeah, so maybe, and that's the other great thing about D&D is something that seems like a penalty, seems like a negative. Of course, can be used positive. It's actually a major feature of the Fate Dresden campaign is your aspects, your good aspects are also your bad aspects, and you use them to refuel.
That's so fun.
Yeah. Anyway, so okay.
I'm gonna name this homebrewing items and
and it's a Dresden RPG
and tabletop chatter.
So it gives you hiccups. Okay.
Okay.
Do we have a time limit? Is there a fortitude save on that?
I should probably know what it does before I decide.
No.
No.
No, we got the hiccups. Okay. Is that a 1 hour?
Oh, the hiccups part.
Yeah, is that a 1 hour or 1 minute?
For as long as whatever the item is active for.
Okay. All right, so for as long as the item is active for, you have hiccups.
So if it is a shield, which it's not, but if it was a shield, the whole time the shield's up, you have hiccups.
Okay, so like a magical shield that protects you?
That was just an example. That's boring.
Okay, so let's think about our rogue then. Okay. We're trying to fill that rogue slot. So things that rogues typically do are going to be detecting traps, secret doors sort of things, disarming those, opening doors, sneaking, and scouting. Those are really like sort of your big 5 in terms of in a dungeon where you would be most missing that rogue. Those are really the big 5. So what do we want to help out with? Sneaking and scouting.
Wouldn't make a whole lot of sense to put that with sneaking. So.
Right, although always a fun magic item that gives you a benefit and then a flaw that immediately cancels it out. Super fun. I saw a great little just sort of cursed magic items list. They're really fun. A lot of creative people out there on the internet. Reddit's got a bunch of lists. One of them is a ring of invisibility, but you're only invisible to yourself.
Is that where you got the fork of truth or whatever?
The fork of lies. The fork of lies, yeah. And
whoever uses the fork has to tell a lie.
Yes. Yes.
We have it,
for one minute they cannot tell the truth. Everything's opposite day.
We really want to use it, but we can't find a reason to.
Yeah. So what's so stealth is off the table because we're not making a totally joke.
What about like picking a lock?
So picking a lock, that's great.
Because that way they can't be very quiet. They don't know what's on the other side of the door, so they have to decide, is it worth using or not?
Yeah. So this is actually great, opening a door. It's a very straightforward effect. Most games will have something along the lines of a knock spell, which will typically unlock a door. And so we have a basis. We have a flaw, which means that we can make it a pretty handy item, and it's a great flaw because it'll really, most of the time you try to quietly open a door, you probably don't want to have the hiccups. So it's a fun little risk reward, but but those hiccups are still probably a lot better than having the fighter kick the door in. That's gonna make a lot of noise.
We've made that mistake. Our rogue did, by the way.
Yep, rogue hated picking locks. She kicked locks.
That was before she went barbarian.
It was, yeah. It was a very apt decision to switch. Okay, so we're going to, it's going to unlock doors. Okay?
So, would it automatically unlock the door, or would it just be like a plus something crazy?
Well, I mean, if it automatically unlocks the door, that's pretty strong.
So, it would be like a plus like 10 or something.
The way that I would do it is because not everybody's going to be proficient in the skills to actually unlock door, whatever they are in your particular system. Your fighter may not have points in that, but the whole point is that you don't have a rogue, so you want someone to be able to use a rogue-like
just
skill.
Gives you that skill.
Yeah, you would say that like the wielder of this item, maybe it's a classic like skeleton key sort of thing, or maybe it's like a ring that you turn the handle with, whatever it is. It treats you as if you had proficiency in these tools for 5th edition or whatever, and as if you had the tool set, as if you had everything you needed to do the task as a rogue, typically at the level of the party or lower. Okay. And so functionally, maybe that means your fighter, instead of having a plus nothing to the check, maybe he's got a plus 5 now, and he's rolling on a pretty hard lock, and it's 15 or 20. He might not make it, but he might.
So we should change how long the hiccups last then, because it's just unlocking a door.
Right.
So maybe the hiccups last for 1 minute per level?
I don't think we need to scale that, but that is a thing. Scaling is a thing.
Yeah, I'm just trying to go off of what I've seen. I don't know what I'm doing.
So I think that hiccuping based on your character level.
I feel like 1 minute's not enough because they'll just sit there for a minute.
Yeah, that's true. So maybe you could make it for an hour.
Okay, it's for an hour.
Okay. Now they could still, of course, short rest.
Yeah.
But odds are, if there's a locked door, somebody might want to check on that locked door. So we'll say give you hiccups for 1 hour. Okay. So that's a pretty rough. I mean, penalty to stealth for an hour. That's not great. Now with something like this, I would say don't give them a check to resist it. You could let them roll a fortitude save to resist the hiccups kind of thing. You could. I think it's more fun if you don't.
Yeah. No. I'm feeling the power.
Right. And so because there is already an effect, like you'll see like a Rod of Knock, for example, in 3.0, was already a magic item that you could use to open doors, and it had no detriment. It did have a number of charges, though. Okay, so do we want to think about charges on this? And we could make them reusable charges like...
I kind of think it should be once a day.
Once a day. Okay. Okay, I don't think there's anything wrong with that.
But maybe give it like a plus like 5 or something.
Okay. So we want
a little more powerful, so you won't just use it to the first.
Okay. So we'll treat it like you had we'll say a plus 2 proficiency and a nice middle of the road 16 dexterity. So plus 5. Okay. Again, she's going to be running her game in 5th edition, so we're kind of talking in 5th edition terms. We're a first level party, so a plus 2 proficiency is really good. And then a 3 dexterity, that's pretty solid. The rogue would probably be there, maybe a little higher, but certainly not lower and certainly not much higher. So I think that's pretty fair. So once per day, you can unlock a door with a plus 5. Then it gives you the hiccups for 1 hour. I think this is a really balanced item. This is a great low-level item. It's got very limited uses. It can fail, on more difficult things to really hammer home, like, oh, you should have a rogue.
If they roll like a nat 1, it's probably not going to work, and they're going to get hiccups. So.
Right, and they're going to get hiccups. So, and then the hiccups are situationally really bad, but also situationally not too bad at all. Like if you've got the time, if you unlock a door and it turns out that's a nice, comfy looking place to rest, who cares if I get hiccups,
Do you usually put your items somewhere in the room, and then if they find it, and if they don't, they don't? Or do you drop it, like...
So that's a great question, okay?
I don't know if it makes sense to you guys, but...
So yeah, I mean, I think it does. What you're asking is, do I ever...
Is there a 100% chance or no?
Yeah, is it ever guaranteed? I will say typically no.
To which one?
It's typically not guaranteed. There have been some really cool...
in your mind where it is in the room, and you're like, if I open that chest, then...
Right. Now, of course, there are exceptions. If there's a MacGuffin, they're probably going to find that MacGuffin somewhere if it's an important plot element item, unless everybody is just rolling horrible and I've got a backup plan for how they can succeed. And every DM is different, but I don't want to send my players on a quest they cannot succeed at. That's not really fun for anybody.
Still a story.
Yeah. Well, now that's not to say that you can't have degrees of success.
Yeah.
You can do it where, we saved the villagers, but the town is burned down and the bad guy got away. That's a degree of success. Or, we killed the bad guy, but the town and the villagers are all gone. So, there's degrees of success, but you don't want to generally just be like, oh, solve this murder, and then there's only one way to solve that murder. That's generally not something that people are going to find fun, because the reality is that unless somebody is your twin and thinks exactly like you, and not even your twin, honestly, but like just the exact same thoughts as you.
Clone.
A perfect clone made yesterday. They're probably not going to think of the exact sequence of events or items that you needed to do it. And so that brings us to the concept, talking about magic items, we might as well bring it up, is I think Angry DM coined this term, but it's Schrodinger's gun. So you've heard of Schrodinger's cat. You open the door, or until you open the door, the cat is both alive and dead. And then you might have heard of Chekhov's gun, which says if a gun is introduced in Act 1 of a play, it must go off by Act 3 of a play. So this is a concept of if you need something to happen, if that gun needs to go off, for example, then it is both behind the next door and not behind the next door as you need it to be. So if, for example, I had an NPC and my party has totally gone off rails and I don't know how to continue, and there's an NPC that I know if I can just get him to this room to talk to this NPC, I know that I can get him back on track. And if they're just wanting to go off track, that's fine. We'll go off track. I don't mind that at all. But if they're earnestly trying to figure out what they need to be doing next and they've got no idea, they're doing everything they can, and I haven't put down enough clues, or maybe somebody misinterpreted something and I can't get it to click, then guess what? The next door they walk through can have that NPC in it. I'd planned for him to be at the inn, right? But maybe he just happens to be at the item shop that they go to, or talking to the count that they're going to go visit on some harebrained scheme. That NPC, that MacGuffin can be wherever I need it to be. Yeah. And there are some really fun magic items that you
just really want us to find.
That I just really want you to find. Or maybe it's something where, I've a couple people in the party right now are talking about their armor and their AC options. I'm probably going to make sure that they find something soon. Just because, they're falling a little bit behind in a couple categories. They're frontliners. They need some more survivability. So I want to make sure that they've got those options. I try not to do completely exactly what you want, like give me a wish list sort of thing. I tend to try to find
even though you ask us for those, sometimes they just appear in a shop or something too.
Yeah. I mean, if I know you're looking for something that's a relatively common magic item, like glamored armor, I'll let you meet somebody who can give you glamored armor. It's always something to consider, especially if you went through the trouble of making a custom item. You probably want it to be found. You either did it because it's plot relevant, or somebody really needs it, or you really just want somebody to have it. So you're probably going to want to make sure that it's obtainable in some way, whether that's on an NPC villain that you expect them to kill and they can loot it off of them, whether it's in some random wizard's treasure trove that they stumble across, whatever. But yeah, I mean, typically any created item you're probably going to want them to find, because it's no fun to make it and then just go, oh, well.
Yeah.
You can. I have. But it's generally more fulfilling to actually use it.
So how do you price, like, let's say they want to sell this. How do you know what the value is?
Well, that's a great question. So 5th edition, which is what you're going to be running, they don't really give you magic item prices. That's what, yeah, like magic is generally, and there may have been some splat books and things like that have been released since then. Well, I don't think they do splat books anymore. They're hardcover real books now. But there may have been some books released since then that are going to be, that are going to give you some guidelines or something like that. I'm not 100% sure. I don't, 5th edition is not my usual game, but I know in the core rules, you just have to sort of, DM just makes it up. Whether based on where you are, maybe magic items are really rare in this town, really common in this other town. There's no set price. And that's fun because it means that you don't have players that are assuming they'll be able to get certain items because they don't even have a price. They probably, they have no reason to assume they could ever afford it at all. Whereas before, like, players might be, like, especially bad in Pathfinder 1st edition, where you'd have players that are mathing out how much gold they expect to have by X level, and if they don't have it, they start throwing temper tantrums. Some players, bad players, don't do that. Don't be that player. So it's, the good news is we don't have to have any logic when we're putting a price on this magic item. You can just say that the town they're in is pretty rare. You could even say that this thing is worth 10,000 gold, but the shopkeep doesn't have the money. Like, there's any number of ways around it. And 5th edition really sort of wants you to do that, make it hard for them to buy and sell magic items. The idea is that magic items are so rare and you want to put this sort of natural value on them so that they're less likely to sell them because of how hard they are to acquire. But if they did want to sell it, I would say you would want to ask yourself, okay, it's got a flaw on it. Maybe somebody won't even buy that. Maybe the way that with the tech magic, maybe it even comes up as a curse. That might be hard to sell. The fact that it's magical at all, somebody might still want to buy it even in spite of the curse. If it's really ornate, that might influence it. Something like this, I would probably figure out what you would charge for, like, a mid-level healing potion. And then I would probably put a similar price tag on this because it's very situationally useful. And it does have a penalty on it.
Okay.
So that's probably what I would do with this. In Pathfinder, I would probably put this at 1,000 or less gold, probably closer to like 250-ish, maybe even 500 at the most. And then in 2nd edition, which has a really weird gold system, this would probably be a 50 to 100 gold item at the most. So, yeah.
Is there anything else we have to do to build it?
No, that's the cool thing. We're done.
We have to name it.
Yeah. I mean, everything from here, though, is just cosmetics. What's the name? What does it look like? Is it a ring? Is it like one thing that's really fun that I've seen is like just an unattached door knocker, and you just go up to a door and it automatically attaches. You knock and then it detaches, and that unlocks the door. So that's fun. It could be like a cool skeleton key. So
that's what I was thinking.
You want to be like a skeleton key?
Because I like keys. They're pretty.
Okay. It's a butterfly skeleton key. Okay. Oh no, something that would make you hiccup. What would make you hiccup?
I was gonna say like the Belching Key or something.
Belching. Okay. All right.
Key of belching.
The skeleton key of belching.
Yes.
Okay. So yeah.
I want it to be really pretty, but then it should have something really like gross in the middle.
Okay, it's really ornate.
Yeah.
With like some nice floral patterns on it. And then up around the part where you hold, it's just like a skull with like a tongue sticking out.
Yeah. You should draw that when we post it.
Okay, yeah, I'll doodle it up. So there's your skeleton key.
I homebrewed something.
Yeah.
Man, I wish I would have done something a little classier for my
No, this is how it is.
Such a lady.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, this is pretty 101. You might want to do like weapons and things like that, and those can get a little harder to do. You don't want those to be too good, but you also want to be too bad because then the party's not going to use them.
Yeah.
That's where you want to put a little more care as opposed to these utility items. Because again, the idea of dropping a utility item like this is because the party needs it. So you don't worry if it's a little strong, because you don't anticipate them selling it unless they find some other way to open doors.
Yeah.
That's the basics of creating a magic item and homebrewing in general.
So maybe that's a good place to start if you're curious about it. And I think that if I was running like a full game, I would have like a whole list of these and like roll a dice to see which one they get. Do you do that? That seems fun.
Yeah, it is fun.
Maybe you tell me that's how we got the fork.
Yes. Yeah. Some
I love
of
that
them were
idea.
ones that I created. The majority of them were from a really fun list I found. I think the fork was on the list. There was about 100 really fun ones I found, and then I took a few out that I wasn't crazy about, added a few of my own, and then just rolled a D100.
That's fun. Okay, well, I think mission accomplished. This was just going to be a quick thing, but you know what?
We talked a little. Sorry.
Just hanging out.
Yeah.
Little D&D ramble.
If you have any other questions, feel free. We're a growing channel. Which on the subject, hit the like, hit the subscribe. It really helps us out.
Yeah.
We are still growing, but if you do want to leave a comment down in the bottom, ask any sort of question, I'm happy to answer it either in the comments or even do a video on it if I think it's something in depth. If you have any questions, I'm not super strong with 5th edition, but it's a really, really simple system that makes it really easy.
And we have the book, so
we can always, and plenty of online references. So I can definitely answer those questions. I can answer, of course, anything from Pathfinder 1st edition.
And you're going to see a lot of Pathfinder stuff on here, but I think in the long run, there's going to be quite a bit of homebrew videos. Because that's really where you have the most fun, and that's what you know the most about.
It is, and I mean the fact is that there's plenty of resources out there for you if you just want to run the game by the book, like the book. So by all means, like we probably will do some 101 stuff, but for the most part, the videos that I'm interested in are the homebrew, and I'll do my very best to make those as system agnostic as possible.
Yeah. I think this was a good one to start with, though. Something small and not too intimidating. When you start to talk about like building worlds and stuff, and I mean
that's coming later.
We'll definitely do world building and custom weapons and also characters and things like that. But I want to kind of build up to that. But we'll have like a playlist, and I think actually we already started a little playlist where we like 3D print our monsters. Or weird monsters and stuff. So just let us know if there's something specific that you like to know sooner rather than later, and we'll jump into that.
Absolutely.
Pretty flexible here.
I mean, at the end of the day, we want to make content that works for you. So please let us know.
Yeah. So anyway, I think that's all for now. We will put links to these silly things that we talked about today.
And I'll get a doodle.
Yeah, and a doodle. And you can, if you want, throw them in your game. Print them off the PDF or whatever. And then, make your own.
Yeah.
So anyway, that's all for now, and we'll see you next time. Thanks so much for watching.
Thanks for joining the collective. Bye.